Name's Tomboy Adera, a freelance naturalist, 60 years old today, but started in the world of nature as a kid, maybe age 14. Been living around the lake for almost the last 50 or 2 years. So I'm home around this general area. I know it as an IBA. That's an important birding area. I know it as a place where it used to be called Cobra Country, today gone. All the nature around here I'm home with. So to start with, I'll talk about bird migration. Many people don't understand what we mean by bird migration. Simply it is birds moving from one place to another for quite a number of reasons. Maybe reasons of food, maybe reasons of needing water, anything, just like humans would also migrate. Maybe problems within the environment, like people chopping trees and so on. And we have quite a lot of examples. But proudly, I tell you that Kisumu has 125 species of birds. I'm talking about non-migrants. If you introduce the migrant species, the number builds to a bigger number. Maybe you reach 200 and something. Now, specifically for people to understand, I want to talk about a few things like the stocks. And specifically, I'll be talking about the white stock today. These stocks migrate, they're paleatric migrants, meaning they come from the poles up down towards the equator when winter arrives in Europe. They migrate because they cannot live in the ice. And they fly for thousands of kilometers to this place. As they fly down, they get tired. They had accumulated quite some food while they were out in Europe before they flew. But after flying, the food is gone, and they need to add some more to what they have in their bodies. Looking at these stocks and what people misconstrue to be happening, especially particular tribes that I've done research with, the Luya and the Luo and the Suba, who live around Lake Lolwe, which is the Victoria Lake. When the stocks come, at that particular time, it gets that the butterflies have also laid their eggs, which they do under particular leaves. And remember, we have 300 plus species of butterflies in Kenya. Kakamega Forest is the most famous place for this number of species of butterflies. And each butterfly, nearly each butterfly has a particular leaf of a particular plant that it lays the eggs on. Imagine if any butterfly would lay eggs under any leaf of a butterfly and then the worms come out. We won't be having any leaf and all our plants would be dead. So it's important that naturally every butterfly has a particular leaf and a particular time of the year that it lays its eggs. We have a particular butterfly, specifically the admiral, which does lay eggs, and the eggs hatch around the same time that the white stalks also arrive around the equator. The worms at this time feed on crop, specifically maize and millet, which are the main foodstuffs that the Luo and the Luya and the Suba do partake in. And they make a very big mistake of thinking that, misconstruing that it is the white stalks that have laid these particular worms. It's a misconcept. It's wrong. It's like food ready. It's like guests coming from somewhere and finding food ready on the table. But people misconstrue. And before I have personally even witnessed people killing these birds in the thousands with the imagination that it's the birds that are laying or giving birth to these worms that are feeding on their maize and their millet. Terrible misconception. But today, like I told you, you got to understand. But that is the story of bird migration. Birds of different species migrate in different ways. And take note, they have particular routes that they follow. The first method of migration is using the stars. Remember, when they're migrating, it happens before climate change. It used to happen at particular times of the year. When the stars are lined up, the plow is somewhere there. The pole star is somewhere there. And every other star is at its particular position. So the birds would migrate all the way, following the stars. Some do it in a day, some do it in weeks, some do it in months. For instance, looking at a bird that goes from one pole to the other, it has to do it in a couple of months. Birds like the swallows, like the blue swifts, that come all the way and come to feed on Dere Island because it's an entomologist's paradise. Dere Island is an entomologist's paradise. Lots of insects. So when the blue swifts fly into Kenya, between the yacht club and the Hippo Point, where the route is, and yes, you did see that building that was being built high, knocked down to one story. That was the reason, after our governor, who's environmental conscious, Professor Nyang Nyongo, listened to me, and I told him that that was the migratory route of the blue swift. Out here, people like Madame drum in the night as these birds migrate. They drum in the night on tin, on everything, that they're chasing the nyawawa, or the ghosts of people who died on land unhappy, so that they can go back into the lake. At this particular time, because of climate and weather change, even diseases used to come. So people took this, the Luo specifically, for ghosts, and they called them the Nyawawa. Just simply migrating birds.
Wow, you mean the Nyawawa scenario are just birds migrating?
Those are birds migrating. People are understanding it now, and that's why they're not giving you any problem. I've seen them. I've used night sights and seen them several occasions. But it's very interesting. It was a way of protecting these birds. Because if they didn't protect them, if they didn't lie the way they lied that it was ghosts, then I think people would have killed them in the plenty as food. So every tribe, every race had ways of protecting what was meant in nature. The other way that birds migrate, or rather to give you the same story, I mean the first story, the bird would fly following where the plow is, ending up there. It would maybe at that time, before people started cutting trees, land on the same branch and find the same flower with the same nectar in that flower that it found the other time. We've ringed and identified birds that have been coming up and down for the past couple of years. I think you had this great story around Luoland in Siaya, where they found a lamagaya that was ringed, and people took it to be I don't know what, and it was a big issue all over the nation. We have another way of migration. Some birds migrate following the Rift Valley headed north. They get in through the Red Sea, they get into the Mediterranean Sea, They move along the shoreline of the Mediterranean Sea, the African side of it. When they get to the Gibraltar, which is only 14 kilometers wide, they cross from there and they end up in many other places. That's another way of migration. So that is how migration takes place. It's for food, it's for habitat, it's for shelter, and many other things.
So there's something so interesting. There's a time I heard that there's a bird, a migratory bird species, which always only come to Kenya to breed, lay the eggs, and while laying the eggs, they remove the eggs of that particular bird. I don't know whatever else. Can you explain about that?
It's very interesting that when birds come here to migrate, they come, and there are very many species that come here. We are talking about the cuckoo, the cuckoo.
Cockatoo.
The cuckoo is very interesting. We have Diedrich's cuckoo and we have class cuckoo. Those are the common cuckoos that migrate from the paleatric lands into the equator. They come find a nest of these small birds, like the firefinch, which live in families, or they find the nest of a magpie, which also lives in a group, and then they lay their eggs in a single egg in these nests. Incidentally, their nests hatch faster than the nests of the bird. They are laying their eggs in their nest. After it has hatched, it pushes all the other eggs down and they break, and the poor birds are feeding a single bird, which is bigger than them in size, and which is all the time screaming for food. So not only two do feed it, but even other family members. This is to enable it to grow very fast, so that within 2 weeks it's a flying bird. It sits somewhere, calls for its mates, and then they pair up, and when the season comes again, they travel back to the paleatric lands. And that is it.